Hello and welcome to Truckin' Office Live. I am Alan Campbell and with Truckin' Office, and we're here to talk about how to run a better trucking business. We use the Truckin' Office software to help manage a business, and we're really not talking about, how to get better loads or how to use load boards and things like that. But after you book a load and after you haul a load, all that stuff that's really a pain and a headache, all the tracking the loads, creating the invoices, all that kind of stuff really makes a difference. You need a system to manage that stuff well. And if you manage that stuff well and keep good stats and have a good process, it makes all the difference. We all know that 8 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5 years. We've all heard that stat in our lifetimes. Just understand that most of the businesses that succeed, sometimes the difference is the systems they use and the processes they use to be more successful. So Truckin' Office is a software that owner operators and fleet builders can use to manage their business and give them the same type of structure and process and accuracy that the big fleets would have. I always used to hate it when all the big fleets, all the mega fleets had all the discounts, all the advantages, all the systems, all those kinds of things. And Truckin' Office brings that type of system and makes it available for any owner operator, any fleet builder. It's very affordable. So what we're doing here with this program is we have a sample business running, and we're just going to come in here every day and do YouTube Live and just update what's going on with a couple of drivers. We have 3 trucks on the road, and we're going to check in on them and see where they're at for today and do our little update. A little bit of updates every day, and the system keeps track of everything for you. Let's take a look. Let me get my share screen going. Okay. And this is what it looks like when you are logged into your account and you're looking at your list of trips. I'm looking over here at this screen. So what we have is 3 drivers here. We have John Doe, we have Bill Smith, and we have me. So we already have these guys dispatched on loads. The loads that are highlighted in yellow are loads that are going to deliver tomorrow or in the future. So we have one load going from Los Angeles, California out to Phoenix, Arizona. That's scheduled to deliver tomorrow. So we can just check in on that, make sure everything's good. Nothing to do there really. We have John Doe going from Houston, Texas to Youngstown, Ohio. He's scheduled to be there by Friday the 6th. So there again, nothing to do there either. That one's in transit. They're on the way. And then we have Bill Smith. And Bill Smith is highlighted in green because it delivers today. And that load is, we have him running a dedicated run from Akron, Ohio to Chicago, and from Chicago back to Akron. He's just doing a dedicated thing back and forth. Okay, so that's what we have going on. And then, so what we need to update today is just what we're doing for Bill Smith. So we're going to go into loads, and we'll see that the load he's on was delivered. Well, yeah, so that will be delivered. Chicago to Akron. So because it's delivered, then that means it's ready to invoice, right? By now you should have your Raycon. You could already attach that and upload it into the system. We should have the bill of lading, because after he delivered, he should be able to use his ELD app and take a picture of the bills. And as soon as he does that and updates his delivery in the system, that stuff will all show up right here in the system. So then that means on this side, all we have to do is view the load. Okay, we proofread everything, make sure everything's good to go, and we just click a button to create the invoice. All right, system generates an invoice number, invoice today. If you have a remit to, like a factoring company or something like that, that you want to put in there, you can. In this case, we're not going to, and this load is already checked and selected because we created the invoice from the load information, and we just create the invoice. And there you go, invoice is done. We have 2 different versions of the PDF. If you want to print this thing out and snail mail it, or you can save it to your computer, all the normal stuff you do with a PDF, or you can use the send via email feature in the app. It already knows the broker's email address. We can attach the Raycon and bill of lading right from here and then send. I'll try not to sneeze, excuse me. So, and then you just send. So, I'm not going to send it here because we're just using some sample data, some fake data, but it's really easy, and you get the idea there that you just click the button and it goes. So then coming back to the trips list, that's all we have to do for that load. Then we're done with that. That's invoice sent. And we go back to our invoices. The invoice that we just created today on 11/4, November 4th, is right there. Went to XYZ brokerage, and then When the payment comes in for that invoice, we can update the payments as they come in, but then that load's done. Invoice done, squared away. Now we go back to the loads, and we know that he went from Chicago to Akron. So that means today he's in Akron. So now he's going to do the load from Akron back to Chicago. Today is Wednesday the 4th. So what we'll do, the easiest thing to do is just to clone that. And what that clone feature does is just makes a copy of that. So if you're doing the same type of freight all the time, it's just that easy. What this is doing is creating a cloned load or copying all this load information. And so it's all the same stuff, right? It's the same customer, it's the same shipper. This one actually has 2 shippers, okay? There's one in Akron, Ohio, there's one in Canton, Ohio. But we're going to change the dates. Instead of this one picked up on the 2nd, now we're going to pick up another one on the 4th, okay? A bill of lading number, we can put a bill of lading number in there, update that information, the weight, some of the details. I'm just going through this quickly, so not a lot. You can put all the detail in there that you want. And we're going to change pickup number 2 to also be today on the 4th. There's a bill of lading number here and a weight. Some other details. You can update whatever you need. Driver instructions. You can put in there pickup numbers, appointment times, whatever you need to. This information will show up right on his ELD as soon as we add this to a trip. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. The consignee is where the load delivers to. So the last one delivered on the 3rd. This one will be delivering tomorrow on the 5th. How to Chicago is a one-day trip. I used to run that Chicago lane quite a bit, and we just would go back and forth. And so this guy's on a dedicated run, so it makes it real easy. We just update the dates. The rate's the same. We've already got a pre-negotiated rate. It's the same one, same rate every time we do it, and then we just save. There you go. So it's saved over here as a planned load in our roadmap of the process here. It says it was created successfully. You can attach the rate con right now if you want to. It'll save it in there for later when you're ready to invoice and do the send via invoice. It'll be already in there. So now that you have all the information in, you might as well go ahead. You probably have the rate con in your hand. Go ahead and just scan it in with your printer and attach it. Pretty easy. Next thing we have to do, though, is we have to make a trip. So now we have this load in the system, so we have to dispatch this load onto a trip. So we're going to add a trip. Okay, and the guy that's running these loads is Bill Smith, so we're going to pick him from our driver list. As soon as we do that, the system knows that the last truck he drove was truck number 2. The last place he delivered was in Akron, Ohio. The system knows all these things. It's important because it's keeping track of the empty miles and the loaded miles. It keeps track of the miles by state. We'll show you that here in a minute. This is the load that's selected for this trip. You can't have more than one load on a trip. Some guys run a lot of LTL stuff. You might have 3 loads on one trip. A trip is from when you pick up your first load until you're empty and you deliver a load. That is the way a trip works in our system. Some guys think of a trip as an out and back, like maybe from Ohio to Chicago and Chicago back to Ohio is one trip. But we don't look at it that way. We look at each, like that would be 2 trips in our system. From Ohio to Chicago is one. From Chicago back to Ohio is the other one. So on this trip, you can add some expenses, fuel expenses and stuff like that, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to save the trip and get it dispatched. Now we got an error. It's not really an error. It's just saying the trip route needs clarification. So we want to make sure we have the stops ordered the way that you want them. So we have 2 pickups happening on the same day, so the system has no automatic way of knowing which one you want first. So in this case, he was empty in Akron, so we're going to pick up Akron first, then go to Canton. So they're in a good order, so we're just going to go say that's okay and go ahead and save it. But we could switch them if we wanted to. Sometimes there's reasons to switch them. Maybe there's appointment times or whatever. A lot of different reasons why you might want to switch them. So anyways, they look good for us. We checked it, we saved it, and we're all good. So now what we're looking at is after the trip is created, this is where the system is really doing some stuff. When you're creating a planned load, all it's really doing is saving the information you typed in. That's it. But when you create the trip, it's doing all the calculations. So if we scroll down here to the bottom, maybe it's easier to start at the bottom this time. It's showing the route for this trip. This is empty on the previous trip, was in Akron. Then we went to another place in Akron. Then we went to Canton. Then we went to Chicago. So it's running the miles for each step of the trip. And then when it gets the miles, it's keeping track of the miles per state. Now we're using PC Miler on this, set on practical truck routing. So this is not like shortest distance or any of that kind of stuff. This is truck routing. These miles are good for IFTA. In fact, this is if you ever get audited by IFTA, they use PC Miler practical miles to do an audit. So we've had thousands of customers using these miles for IFTA, and we've never had any issue. All of our customers have said that everything is always checked out. Let's see. So what else happens here? So it runs the miles automatically. It has all of your information for your invoices all set up. So this is your invoice summary. So sometimes there's a lot of different ways to put rates in here. You can put them in percentage based and weight, and if there's any calculations that need to be done, it'll do all of that stuff and display that so that you're all ready to go with the invoice. When you get the bill of lading, you can update it. You can scan it in if you have it in your office, or if the driver has the ELD, he can just take a picture of it with his ELD and it'll upload right into the system for you. If you had the bill of lading attached, it would just show up right here, so you would know it's right here ready to go. The other thing that it does is updates the driver settlement information. So this is what the driver pay would be on this load, and that'll show up on the driver settlement reports. It also updates a profit and loss. It does a profit and loss for this load, but it's also updating all of the reports. So in all the profit and loss reports in the system, everything's updated every time you save a load. So the other thing that happens is as soon as this load is saved, I've mentioned it a few times, but as soon as it's assigned to a trip, all this load information, just the load information that the driver needs, shows up on his ELD app. We're talking about the shipper's address, phone numbers, stuff like that. Appointment times, pickup numbers, anything you put in those sections for driver information, that stuff just automatically shows up in his app. You don't have to send it to him or copy and paste or text it or whatever. You're just entering the load. As soon as you book the load, enter it in the system, then create the trip. And as soon as you create that trip, it'll just show up in his app. It makes life so much easier. I have owner operators that maybe they have somebody at home helping them dispatch or whatever, and they can at home get the Raycon, type the information into the system, and then the trip is in, the load is in there, the trip is created, shows up on the ELD app. Makes things so much easier. You know, the driver is able to check the load off delivered, take a picture of the bill of lading, back home, ready to do invoicing. Or even if you're doing it yourself, you know, it's still easier to, you know, you're in the mill and they sign your bills, you can take a picture of it, and then when you get in the truck later and you get on your laptop, everything's already there. You don't have to screw around with it. It's just so much easier. Okay, so I know I'm going through this kind of quick, but really that's all it takes to update your information every day. So now we go back at the trips and it looks a little bit different. We have Bill Smith that delivered in Akron today. And then up here on this line, we have him delivering tomorrow on the 5th back in Chicago. He's going to Chicago, so that's where he'll be. And we have me, I guess. I'm going to be delivering in Phoenix, Arizona. I guess I travel around the country quite a bit on my sample company. But yeah, so I'm just going through this kind of quick, and we're just doing quick updates. This is what it takes, though. Just a little bit of updating every day. Spend a half an hour updating your records every day, and everything's easy. All your loads get invoiced right away. You know, everybody wants to get paid as quickly as possible. So even if you're using factoring or quick pay or whatever, the sooner they get all their documents, the sooner, you know, the payment process can get started. Or if you're billing the customers direct, or however you're doing your process, you know, part of the trick to it is getting that invoice made as close to delivery as possible. All the big 3PLs are trying to cut that time down dramatically. That's why they get so excited. You know, sometimes you haul for certain brokers, and you know how they're always hounding you for updates when you're in transit, and then you finally get delivered and they want that bill of lading like right away. Well, this is why they're trying to invoice it right away so that they can get that cash flow process started. You got to keep that cash flow moving. So being able to invoice quickly is pretty handy. And you don't just want to create an invoice and fire it off. You want to be able to also have some tracking. You want to know who's made a payment, who hasn't made a payment, and where that process stands. So it's really easy to tell these ones down here are already paid off and these ones aren't. They're waiting for you to enter the payment. So you can just look at your list right away and see if everybody's paid up or what your status is. You can also go back here to the company overview report. We look at these reports every day too, because really this is the lifeblood of the business, understanding your numbers. So here we have revenues, expenses, and profit, just like any profit and loss. But then we also have revenue per mile, expenses per mile, profit per mile. Then we break it down for loaded miles too. We know that all miles count, obviously, but when you're bidding on freight, you're only bidding on loaded miles. And so, especially when you're bidding on contract freight and stuff like that, like they don't care how far you have to deadhead. They're moving something from point A to point B, and all they care about is those miles. So you have to, so when you're bidding, you have to like tweak the numbers a little bit so that you know how competitive you can be on some of those lanes. So it's a really good way to understand your numbers and make sure you're not selling yourself short here. It also gives you just running totals of how many loads you've done this month, average revenue per load, miles for the month, average miles per load. So then you can start to say, well, the name of the game is to increase profits and cut expenses so that you can be more profitable. So there's more than one way to do that, right? Maybe your average miles per load is a little bit short. Maybe you need to run a little bit longer. Maybe you're running longer, but you're getting lower revenue per load. So maybe you need to run a little bit shorter so that you can increase your revenue per mile. So there's a lot of different ways to make adjustments to your plans and your system so that you can increase the bottom line, which is obviously the profits. That's what the name of the game is. So, okay, so we've done our updates and we've looked at our report. Now there's also 13 other reports on here that you can look at. There's IFTA reports, customer reports, fuel reports, driver settlements. So all of these things can be updated throughout. You can look at these reports every day. Every time you save a trip, they update. And so you can go through there and look at what you need to do. Expenses, let's enter an expense real quick. Let's say we will add in an expense for fuel. The most common thing, we'll go through a lot of fuel, right? We'll say we bought fuel today. Let's say we bought 450 gallons. We'll say it's for truck number 1. Where was that running? That was from LA to Phoenix. We'll say we're buying fuel somewhere in Arizona. Gallons. How many gallons do you get for $450? We'll say 200. You don't really get that many, but it's easy to make up some numbers. Let's see. Fuel vendor. I don't think I have any fuel vendors in Arizona. Now what I'm doing here is I'm creating an address because I don't have any fuel vendors in Arizona. You click create, and when you create something, it adds an address to your address book. Okay, so I'm just putting in a generic fuel stop. We'll say in Phoenix, Arizona. And then I'm just typing the A on there. This is a pull down of all the states. I was just typing an A a couple times to get Arizona in there. Then you can put in all these details and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff, or you can skip it. The asterisk lets you know what's required, and the only thing that's really required here is the city and the state and the name. Okay, and then we'll save that. And we save that, it shows up here in the fuel vendor, but it also saved it to the address book. So you only have to put it in there once, and then anytime you stop at that place, you'll just be able to pick it, search, you'll search, and then you'll pick it from the list. And in this spot here, you're declaring what state you're getting the fuel in for your IFTA report. So sometimes you might have like a Flying J or a Pilot or something in there, Petra, whatever, in there, and maybe you only want one. You don't have to put in every Petro in the whole country, so you just put one in there, and you might but use them in different states. So that gives you the ability to do that. Put in one generic name for the truck stop, but this is where you're actually declaring what state you bought the fuel in for, for your IFTA reports. So we'll create the expense, okay? And then there it shows up right there. We bought fuel for the Freightliner, $450. Now, the other thing you can do is you can add this to a trip. See, some of these other ones are assigned to a trip, and this one isn't. So we can go back through. We should be able to edit that. And then come down, and there's a toggle right here that says add it to a trip. If you just say yes, okay, it already knows truck number 1, and it already knows that truck is on trip 1034. And so we'll say, okay, that looks like the right thing. So we'll go ahead and update that. Okay, this is just a summary of the update. When we go back to the expense list, now it's assigned to that truck, to that trip. It's right here, 1034. Okay. And then if we click on that trip, it'll take us right there, and we can take a look at it and what we were looking for. is the profit and loss area, and right here it shows that fuel expense right there, and it shows up in our profit and loss for the trip. It'll obviously show up in all the reports for the profit and loss for the company as well. Okay, so that's just a quick little update for today. If you are on the free trial of the software, you should subscribe and you should make this a part of your business every day. If you have not got the free trial yet, please get the free trial. It is truly a no-risk free trial. You enter in your email address and a couple little things about your company. There's no surprise credit card forms or anything like that. You sign up for the free trial. We'll send you some emails of some training videos. There's a whole user guide with a whole training system in there. So there's plenty of support for you to get going. We also have live customer support daily from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We do this YouTube every day. So if you're seeing this later, if you didn't catch it live and you're seeing this later and you have a question about how to do something, or maybe I went through something too fast or whatever, just put a comment in the questions. I monitor this YouTube channel, so I'll see that. If you put a question in the comments, I should say, put it in there and I'll answer it on the next video, or I answer it in the comments and I'll answer it on the next video so that everybody will know. So anyways, like our channel. This is a new program for us, so we need some followers on there. So please like our channel, get alerts for when we go lives, and pop in here, start asking some questions and stuff like that, and we'll address different issues. I know everybody's got a little bit of a different operation, so we'll be happy to address any question that comes up. So get on the free trial, get subscribed, get using the system. Don't wait. As soon as you start using it, the sooner it'll start helping your business. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Have a nice day, and we will see you tomorrow.